WD18, the Watford fans channel, here for a little bit of a reaction video regarding what's happened in the last 24 hours or so. And what a crazy 24 hours it's been. If you're a Watford fan, you can never say you're not entertained by this club, either on or off the pitch. As the case has been, of course, the big news following our 2-0 defeat away at Huddersfield was the sacking of Vladimir Ivic. The club announced that at 9:45 last night. Ivic's backroom staff also leaving the football club. We'll get on, of course, to what happens after, of course, Ivic in a few moments, but we'll first of all talk about Ivic and just kind of like my thoughts really on the whole situation and what's kind of gone on. I've been very vocal on other social media sites, but I think it might just be best to address it on a video, really. It's been a really bizarre last 24 hours or so, and I think the one thing I would say about the sacking is not one that's particularly surprised me. I had the feeling kind of after the game. The biggest inclination, of course, I have is, after most games this season, the club's Twitter have been very active in, getting post-match reaction out, polls and, polls on the man of the match. Not saying that there was a man of the match yesterday, but the interactivity, the whole Hive live interviews and so on, none of that stuff was put up. And I checked back maybe about 2 hours or so after full time, and there was still nothing there. I kind of had a feeling at that moment that something was potentially brewing. And ultimately, something did brew. And I could just kind of feel it coming, really. I will just say, though, on this, it's such a shame, frankly, that Vladimir Ivic has had to go. Performances weren't great, and I'm not going to make any. I'm not going to try and hide away from that in any way, shape, or form. The performances have been turgid against Huddersfield. The Terriers didn't even need to get out of first gear yesterday. The game was won after the second goal. Two self-inflicted moments, of course. Foster's big mistake to present a tap-in for Fraser Campbell. And then, of course, the own goal by Etienne Capoue. But, again, there were problems as well, when the starting 11 and all that was announced. Again, no Stipe Peritza, Andre Gray starting, a 3-5-2 formation, playing Sarr up front alongside Andre Gray. Sarr isn't a striker. So many problems, even before the first whistle went, really. And look, ultimately, if Vladimir Ivic has gone, some of the tactics have been slightly questionable, but I have this feeling, and it's going to happen a lot, especially with any team. Once you've lost the dressing room, once you've lost the core of players in that team, things always tend to go to shit, don't they? And that's just what we've seen. Now Adam Leventhal released an article, of course, this morning that detailed a lot more. There were rumblings of an argument between Vladimir Ivic and club captain Troy Deeney. That ultimately, the light has somewhat been shone on that. Vladimir Ivic informed the team of the selection of the players that would be playing for the Huddersfield game before the game. I think it was on the Friday night. Troy, not particularly happy with the fact that he'd been dropped, having scored 3 and 3, felt that it was slightly unfair. Vladimir Ivic, though, actually wanted to have a chat with Troy, went to go and find Troy, but found out he was actually off having a massage, which, again, just why? Why are you doing that? Why? Yeah. It's just a very childish thing to do. The head coach wants to have a chat with you, maybe wants to explain his decision to you, have a proper chat. And Troy it seems to me like he went off to sulk and go and have a massage. Then Troy finishes his massage at some glacial pace and then goes off to try and find the head coach, and then ultimately can't find him. And that's when the relationship, in the words of Adam Leventhal, sort of cooled slightly. Ivic quite scathing as well in his post-match interview. If he had no intention of playing Troy, then why was he on the bench? Vlad's answer was quite simple in that, well, we don't have enough players, so he had to be on the bench, which is very, very telling, and actually quite a cutting remark actually to make as well. But there were other things there as well. So the one thing that I instantly picked up on were all three of the board members, Giurietta, our sporting director. You had Scott Duxbury and Gino Pozzo all at the game. That's very rare as well. That has been pointed out as well. Our sporting director is always at every away game. And Scott and Gino go to every single home game. Scott and Gino, I know for a fact, I think, sit in the director's box. Giaretta, sporting director, sits behind the dugout. He's always done that. He has literally got the same job as Giraldi. It's just a different name. Giraldi was constantly seen behind on the bench, putting that pressure on Flores, Javi, maybe even Nigel Pearson. In fact, no. I'll actually correct myself on that. Definitely Nigel Pearson. Because that's what they do. That constant pressure, that microscope that they put on you. And half-time, we were 2-0 down. Giaretta went down to speak to Ivic's assistants, came back looking quite disgruntled, knowing full well that, they had no plans on changing anything about the team. And for Ivic to not make any subs in the second half of that game yesterday was absolutely atrocious. It should have been made at half-time. Bringing on Paritza after, 65 minutes or so, not good enough. 2 right-backs coming on, 2 full-backs coming on to replace like for like, not good enough. And it smelt of Flores against Southampton. And it was such a pointless substitution. And ultimately, as I say, Huddersfield had the game won by a half-time. They didn't have a single shot on target in the second half. We kind of huffed and puffed and did whatever. But ultimately, we couldn't do it, really. And we succumbed to yet another defeat on the road. I know for a fact that Gino wasn't particularly impressed with our away form. I know that for a fact. And looks like yesterday was the final straw. But I think there have been a whole load of other problems. The article from Adam Leventhal goes into a lot of detail in that. Players weren't happy with the constant changing of the tactics and the formation, didn't like the routine as well that they were in, didn't like the fact that they couldn't go back to their own houses, they had to stay in a hotel. Very, very spoiled, just entitled, really. Just a very spoiled and entitled mentality there. Big deal, you can't go home and have a night in your own bed. Well, what the fuck has that got to do with anything? It's stuff like that as well, and it's a whole group of players as well. I know Troy has been singled out, and I don't know what's going to happen with him. Lots of people are saying sell him in January. Troy's not going anywhere in January, and we know that. And I don't think Troy won't leave this club until either Scott Duxbury leaves the club, or the Pozzos leave the club. Or potentially at the end of the season when we haven't achieved promotion to the Premier League and Troy thinks, I want out now. It'll be on his terms. As much as Ivic's tactics haven't helped, the attitude of the players has been absolutely disgraceful, and I felt that, in all honesty. I felt the frustration of the players. I was there on Tuesday night, and you could feel it. Troy isolated up front, puffing in the midfield. Sarr looks like he just doesn't want to be here. He cuts such an exasperated figure at times. I've got to point the finger though at some other of our other senior players as well. I look at someone like potentially Andre Gray, breaking lockdown for a second time, but you're back in the team within 2 weeks. You're 28, 29 years old. What sort of example does that set to the other players in the team? That's the question you've got to ask yourself. I'm going to end this, of course, by talking a little bit about the new manager, Xisco Munoz. He seems to be the man who comes in. Yeah, again, who? And I don't mean to be rude when I say that. It's the same old cheap, unproven method. Is that going to work? I don't know. The man's only managed 11 games. He's currently manager at Dinamo Tbilisi in Georgia. He won them the league title last year. Again, I'm not being funny. Ivic came in from the Israeli league and we all raved about how great, that record was. And yeah, it was impressive, but it was the Israeli league. Now we're talking about the Georgian league. I don't watch any Georgian football. I don't know how good this guy is. But the fact he's only managed 11 games, he doesn't even have his official, I think it's his Pro A license or something, which will enable him to manage in the Premier League. So if by some fluke of a miracle we somehow do manage to stay on track this season, and there's no reason as to why we wouldn't, fair play to Ivic. We're 5th at the moment. Our home record's been solid, and our away form has been a bit iffy, but Ivic has got us up to 5th. If we're able to maintain this in some way, a promotion charge could still be on. The man can't manage as he goes off and does his other badges. It's just another chapter in what's been a farcical 24 hours. a lot of things have got to change, and I think, you know, this is one of the key times. This, for me, is a key moment in the history of this club now. It's not just a season. It's not just, you know, a month, a crucial week. It's a crucial time in our whole history. You know, Munoz, let's be brutally honest with each other, as from contributor to subscriber, we all know what's going to happen here. Munoz is going to come in. He's probably going to leave at the end of the season. If things go so badly, he might go in, I don't know, March or something. Yeah, and then someone else will probably be bought in again. I worry about the long-term direction of this football club now, because we're not making proper decisions. And whilst we're very quick to point the finger at the players, rightly so as well, because these are the same group of players that got this club relegated in absolutely devastating circumstances last season. And I was very angry in July of last year, upset as well, very upset. But this is probably taking, I mean, this has drained me, to be quite honest with you, the last 24 hours. As much as the players, certain players in particular, need to be weeded out, and they're not all just going to go at once as well. It's going to take a long time for us to do a full rebuild. It's simply not going to happen. And Scott Duxbury's statement backing Troy is just another chapter of this farcical 24 hours, frankly. You know, whether rightly or wrongly, the club have decided to sweep it under the carpet because we've got a game next Saturday, and it's a big game as well. Boxing Day at home to Norwich, another promotion rival. You know, maybe we now get a result. Maybe I'm slightly more confident we might get something with a new manager in charge. I don't know. Personally, before the Huddersfield game, I wasn't feeling particularly confident about the Norwich game. I'm slightly more confident maybe now, but that's maybe because we might see something different. We might have some fresh impetus. You know, we might actually start lining up as an attacking side. You know, Sema and Sarr might be able to bomb on down the wings. Might actually play two up front. He might even start Stipe Peritza, who by a country mile is the best striker at this football club and who has been overlooked massively. But a lot of things have got to change at this club. It's not going to happen immediately. The recruitment and retention of the players, of players, has been poor. But specifically the recruitment side of things, the players and the head coaches. And that, I'm afraid, you can't point that at any player. There are only two individuals that are to blame for that, and that is Gino Pozzo and Scott Duxbury. And they have failed in that respect. They have failed to bring in the right coach. You know, the way in which things have been handled as well. I don't think I can ever point at a head coach and say you were unfairly sacked in your role. Actually, there wasn't a single one, because results weren't good enough. But it's the way in which those kind of events happened. Sacking Javi Gracia, one of the most successful managers this club has had in more modern times, by a text message in an international break when he was on holiday, is absolutely disgraceful. It's probably at that moment that I started thinking, okay, that doesn't sound right. Something doesn't sound great there. But, you know, we are committed to this club no matter what, and it's been a tough 24 hours, really. It's been tough to kind of focus on this. But as the saying goes, the show must go on, and the show will go on. It will go on Boxing Day. We will see the same players trot out again. Perhaps they're maybe a little bit lucky, some of these players, the fact that we are now in Tier 4 because there are no fans in the ground. And do you know what? I wouldn't want to take my chances as a player at the moment. You know, they're going to avoid all the backlash from all of this, like they did after the relegation. Going to avoid it all. And ultimately, a lot of them will get away scot-free with this season, if you pardon the pun. Yeah, the season carries on. The show must go on. Big game on Boxing Day. I want to see some sort of fight back. I want to see a manager play some proper attacking football. Let's just go for it now. Yeah, the chances are 9 times out of 10 this season's probably now going to be a write-off. But let's try not to make it a write-off. Let's go for it. Let's just go for it. As I've said, let's just go for it. Play 4-4-2, 2 up top. Get the most out of Sarr, get the most out of Sema, get the most out of João Pedro if he's fit. But a crazy 24 hours. The club once again haven't painted themselves in a particularly bright picture. But that's the crazy world we live in. We're still on the Pozzo roller coaster. But some people want to get off that roller coaster. Time will tell, I guess. Munoz looks to be the new man coming in. Will he be the chosen golden boy? Or is he just going to be ending up, or will he just end up on the scrap heap in 4 months' time? Let's find out.